We all have that moment when we realize that the relationship we thought we wanted wasn't really the one we needed. When I compared you to my ex, I saw the gap that had been left open and unfilled. It's not about who is better, it's about the connections that stir something deeper within. When I thought about you, I realized that maybe the love I had with my ex wasn't something to forget, but something to learn from. I never wanted to compare you, but when I did, I realized that sometimes love doesn't live up to the fantasy we create. With my ex, there was something I hadn't truly let go of. We often look for the things we didn't have in the past in the people we meet. But when I thought about my ex, I realized that sometimes what we need most is not found in the next person, but in understanding the past. There's a certain bitterness that comes with comparison. When I thought about you and my ex, I realized that maybe it's not that one of you was better than the other, but that I haven't fully let go of what once was. When we're in love, we're quick to ignore the cracks, but when I compared you to my ex, I couldn't deny the moments of longing that were still there. I thought I had moved on, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized that the feelings of longing weren't just about them. It was about me searching for something I didn't know I was missing. At first, I was convinced I had found something better, but when I looked at you through the lens of my past, I saw that my ex wasn't the problem. It was me holding on to something I couldn't let go of. You're great in your own way, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized there was a part of me still in love with what I thought was lost. It's not about who was better, it's about the fact that sometimes the past haunts us in ways we don't expect. I thought you were the one, but the reality is the past still lingers in my heart. I thought love was about finding someone new, but when I looked at you and compared you to my ex, I realized that it's more about truly letting go before moving forward. I didn't want to compare you, but when I thought about my ex, I saw a connection that was undeniable. I'm not sure what it means, but I think it's something I need to explore before I can truly give myself to you. When I thought about the past, I realized that my ex wasn't the one holding me back. I was. The feelings I thought I had let go of were still there, and I needed to address them before I could fully be present with you. I wanted to believe that what we had was enough, but when I compared it to what I once had, I realized that maybe we were both still searching for something we hadn't found yet. In my heart, I thought I was over the past, but when I compared you to my ex, I felt the pull of memories I hadn't fully processed. I wasn't ready to move on, at least, not yet. I thought you were different, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized that the differences weren't necessarily better. They were just different ways of missing what I had lost. It's strange how love can sometimes leave us feeling like we've traded one hurt for another. When I thought about my ex, I realized that the love I thought I moved on from was still holding on to me. When I compared you to my ex, I felt the sharp sting of realization that love doesn't always change. Sometimes it just shifts and leaves us questioning what's next. I thought my ex was the cause of all my heartache, but when I compared you to them, I realized it was me holding on to what was never meant to last. I thought I had left the past behind, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized I was still walking with one foot in the past, unable to move forward completely. You were never meant to replace my ex, but in the quiet moments, I couldn't help but see how our connection was different. Maybe not better, just different. Love isn't always about comparison, but when I thought about you and my ex, I realized that some feelings can't be replaced. They have to be healed. When I compared you to my ex, I felt a strange sense of an emptiness, not because you weren't enough, but because I hadn't given myself the chance to heal before moving forward. There's always that moment when you realize that what you thought was the one is actually just another chapter in a story you're still figuring out. When I compared you to my ex, I saw a version of love that didn't quite fit. Sometimes we find ourselves holding on to the past without realizing it. When I compared you to my ex, I realized I was still tied to memories I needed to let go of. I thought you were the one I had been waiting for, but when I thought about my ex, I realized there were pieces of my heart I hadn't yet mended. It's not about the love we had, but the love we still need to understand. When I compared you to my ex, I realized there were lessons I hadn't learned yet. When I thought about you in the context of my past, I realized something that stung a little. While I thought I was in something better, it turns out the ghost of my ex still lingered in the way you made me feel. The love I thought was more pure with you now feels like it's missing that spark. Maybe it's not about who's better, but about who's truly what I need. At first, I thought I'd found the perfect person, someone to wipe away the past. But then the comparison sneaked in. When I looked back at my ex, I realized that in some strange way, what I had with them was wool in ways you can't seem to match, and it left me questioning my feelings. It's odd how when we meet someone new, we hope they will outshine the old flames. But as time passes, I began to see you not as the upgrade I thought you were. You were different, yes, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized the connection with them, despite its flaws, was something I haven't felt with you. Sometimes we find ourselves holding onto the idea of someone instead of truly seeing them. I thought you were better than my ex, but when I truly let myself feel the differences, I realized that maybe the person I thought I needed wasn't actually who I wanted. When I looked back at my ex, I felt like I was finally seeing things clearly. With you, I've seen the love, the laughter, and the moments, but in the quiet, I realize it was always missing something that I once had. Maybe it's not you, but just me not ready to move on from a past love. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. You're good, but my ex was better in ways I didn't even realize until now. It's not about love being a competition, but about acknowledging that not every relationship is as fulfilling as we first hoped. I thought I had moved on, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized something important. Maybe I hadn't fully healed. You aren't bad, but I can't ignore the fact that the connection with them is something I'm still chasing. Sometimes, in the moments of comparison, we find clarity. When I thought of my ex and our time together, I realized I was searching for something in you that I didn't need to find, because it was something I had before, and maybe it was meant to stay there. I wanted you to be the one, and at times I thought you were. But then I found myself thinking about my ex and realized you're good, but maybe we both deserve more than just good. In love, it's easy to feel like the grass is greener, but when I looked at you through the lens of my past, I saw that while we have a lot in common, my ex and I had something deeper. It's not about who's better, but about what feels right for me. I think we all have that moment when we realize that the feelings we thought were new aren't as fresh as we imagined. When I compared you to my ex, I felt that overwhelming wave of realization. Sometimes we don't realize what we had until we start looking for it in others. What I thought was an upgrade ended up being just a different kind of relationship. When I compared you to my ex, I realized I may have rushed into something just because it felt like the right thing to do, without taking the time to understand the difference. It's funny how we often compare the present to the past, thinking it's the only way to measure growth. But when I thought about you, I realized that some things from my past were just too special to replace. You weren't what I expected, and honestly, that's not always a bad thing. But when I compared you to my ex, I felt the quiet emptiness that lingered. Maybe the real problem wasn't about you being better or worse, but about me not being ready. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes with comparison. When I thought about my ex and the ways they made me feel, I realized that what you and I have isn't what I truly need. It's not a bad thing. It's just a realization that maybe we aren't meant to be. I think we all crave something more, something deeper. But when I looked at you through the lens of my past, I saw that the love I thought was fading was still very much alive, just not with you. There was a time when I thought I had made the right choice, but when I compared you to my ex, I realized that my heart was still tied to what I thought I lost. Maybe the issue isn't about you being better, but about me not being ready to truly let go. I kept telling myself I was over my ex, but when I compared the way I feel with you versus how I felt with them, I couldn't help but notice the difference. Maybe it wasn't about love being perfect, but about the type of connection I needed. Sometimes the truth hurts. When I compared you to my ex, I realized that love isn't always about who you choose, but about finding the one who truly fits with who you are. And maybe that's not you.